Once upon a time, in a small town in Nigeria, there lived a woman named Amina. She was a single mother of 4 children struggling to make ends meet. Her eldest daughter, Zara, got married to a man named Ahmed. Zara met her husband, Ahmed, in their town. They were neighbors and grew up knowing each other since they were little kids. They played together, went to the same school, and shared secrets like best friends do. As they grew older, they started to like each other more than just friends. They would often talk and laugh together, and Ahmed would help Zara with her chores. One day, Ahmed gathered up all his courage and told Zara that he really liked her and wanted to marry her someday. Zara blushed and smiled because she felt the same way about Ahmed. They decided to tell their families about their feelings for each other, and both families were happy because they knew Zara and Ahmed cared for each other deeply. After getting permission from their families, Zara and Ahmed started planning their future together. They dreamed about having their own home, raising a family, and growing old together. They worked hard to save money and support each other's dreams. Finally, the day came when Zara and Ahmed got married in a beautiful ceremony, surrounded by their families and friends. It was a happy day filled with love and laughter, and Zara knew she was marrying the man of her dreams. After Zara and Ahmed got married, they moved into their new home together. Their new home was a gift from Ahmed's parents, who wanted to start their married life on a happy note. It was a cozy house with colourful walls and a big garden where they could plant flowers and vegetables. Ahmed had been saving money for years by working hard as a farmer, and Zara had been helping her parents with their small business. With their combined savings and the support of their families, they were able to furnish their new home with comfortable furniture, a big bed, and all the things they needed to start their life together. Ahmed continued to work on the farm, while Zara used her skills to sew clothes and sell them in the town market. They worked together as a team, supporting each other and sharing their earnings to make ends meet. As time passed, their hard work paid off, and they began to live a more comfortable life. Ahmed's crops grew bountifully, bringing in a good income, while Zara's sewing business flourished, attracting customers from far and wide. With their newfound prosperity, Zara and Ahmed were able to afford luxuries they had only dreamed of before. They bought new clothes, nice furniture, and even a television to watch their favorite shows together. They also started saving money for their future and dreaming about traveling to new places. Despite their newfound wealth, Zara and Ahmed remained humble and grateful for all they had. They never forgot their roots or the people who had helped them along the way. They continued to live a simple life filled with love, laughter, and gratitude, cherishing every moment they spent together in their cozy little home. Zara would often send gifts and money to her mother, bringing joy to Amina's heart. Zara was excited to invite her mother, Amina, to her new home for a visit. She wrote a letter to her mother, telling her how much she missed her and how she wanted to show her the house she and Ahmed had worked so hard to build. In the letter, Zara expressed her love for her mother and her excitement at the thought of spending time together. She told Amina about the cozy home they now lived in and the beautiful garden they had planted together. Zara also mentioned that she had prepared some of Amina's favorite dishes and couldn't wait to share them with her. After writing the letter, Zara carefully folded it and asked a neighbor to deliver it to her mother's house. She waited anxiously for a reply, hoping that Amina would accept her invitation and come to visit. A few days later, Zara received a reply from her mother, in which Amina expressed her happiness at receiving the invitation. She thanked Zara for her thoughtfulness and promised to visit as soon as she could. Filled with joy, Zara began to make preparations for her mother's visit. She cleaned the house from top to bottom, cooked delicious meals, and decorated the garden with flowers. She wanted everything to be perfect for her mother's arrival. Finally, the day of Amina's visit arrived, and Zara eagerly waited for her mother to arrive. When Amina walked through the door, Zara enveloped her in a warm hug, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. It was a moment of pure happiness as mother and daughter were reunited in their new home, surrounded by love and laughter. As days passed, Amina was astonished by the luxurious lifestyle her daughter now enjoyed with her husband. Jealousy crept into Amina's heart as she compared her own humble abode to the grandeur of Zara's new home. She couldn't shake the feeling of envy that consumed her. As days turned into weeks, Amina's jealousy festered and grew. She couldn't bear to see her daughter living so happily while she struggled to survive. In a moment of madness, Amina concocted a wicked plan to unalive her own daughter and take her place as the wife of Zara's husband. With a heavy heart and twisted mind, Amina set her plan in motion. She began to distance herself from Zara, pretending to be happy for her daughter's newfound happiness while secretly plotting her demise. She would smile and nod as Zara talked about her husband and their life together, all the while seething with envy. One fateful night, when the moon hung low in the sky and darkness enveloped the town, Amina carried out her sinister plan. She lured Zara into the woods under the guise of gathering firewood. Amina led Zara into the forest, her heart filled with a mixture of anger, jealousy, and desperation. Zara, sensing her mother's unease, began to feel afraid and confused. She pleaded with her mother, tears streaming down her face, begging her not to do whatever it was she was planning. "Please, Mama," Zara cried, "don't do this. I love you and I don't understand why you're so angry. We can talk about it, we can fix whatever's wrong, just please don't hurt me." But Amina's heart was hardened by jealousy and resentment. She shook her head stubbornly, her eyes flashing with determination. "I can't let you live a luxury life," Amina replied, her voice cold and devoid of emotion. "I've struggled my whole life, and now it's my turn to have what I deserve. I deserve to live in luxury, to have all the things I've always wanted, and if that means I have to marry your husband to get it, then so be it." Zara's eyes widened in shock and disbelief as she realized the depth of her mother's betrayal. She pleaded with Amina one last time, her voice trembling with fear and sadness. "But Mama," she whispered, "how can you do this to me? How can you choose your own happiness over your own daughter's? Please, I'm begging you, don't do this. Think about what you're doing. Think about the consequences." But her mother never listened to her. Instead, she ambushed her own daughter, unleashing her pent-up rage and jealousy in a fit of madness. The next morning, when Zara's absence was discovered, panic swept through the town. A search party was organized, but despite their efforts, Zara was nowhere to be found. Amina played the part of the grieving mother convincingly, shedding crocodile tears for her lost daughter while hiding the dark truth of what she had done. Meanwhile, back at Zara's husband's house, confusion and sorrow reigned as he grappled with the sudden disappearance of his beloved wife. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Zara. Her husband mourned her loss deeply, unaware of the treachery that lurked beneath the surface. As time passed, Amina seized the opportunity to worm her way into her daughter's husband's heart. She offered him comfort and solace in his time of need, playing the role of the supportive mother-in-law with skillful deceit. Slowly but surely, she began to replace Zara in his affections, manipulating him into believing that she was the one he needed by his side. Finally, after months of cunning manipulation, Amina achieved her twisted goal. She became the wife of her own daughter's husband, without informing her other 3 children and Ahmed family. But when heard about their mum got married to Zara, their sister husband, they felt very sad and confused when they found out that their mother had married their older sister, Zara's husband. They didn't understand why their mother would do such a thing, and it made them feel hurt and betrayed. They sat down with their mother and told her how they felt. They said, "Mum, we don't understand why you married Zara's husband. It's not fair to Zara, and it's not fair to us either. We miss Zara, and now we don't know what will happen to our family." They explained to their mother that they were worried about their future and didn't want things to change. They loved their mother very much, but they couldn't understand why she would do something that seemed so wrong. Their words made Amina realize the pain she had caused her children by marrying Zara's husband. She felt ashamed and guilty, but was never worried. She said to her children, "This is my life. I will live it the way I want it." Her children with a broken heart left. Also, when Ahmed's family learned that he had secretly married Zara's mother, Amina, without informing them, they were shocked and outraged. They couldn't understand why Ahmed would make such a decision without consulting them first, and they felt betrayed by his actions. Ahmed's parents and siblings gathered together to discuss the situation, and they all agreed that they could never accept Amina as their daughter-in-law. They felt that Amina had deceived them and had no right to marry into their family, especially considering the circumstances surrounding Zara's disappearance. "We cannot accept Amina as our daughter-in-law," Ahmed's father declared firmly. "She has betrayed our trust and caused immense pain to our family. We cannot forgive her for what she has done." Ahmed's siblings echoed their father's sentiments, expressing their disappointment and anger at their brother's decision to marry Amina without their consent. "We cannot welcome Amina into our family," Ahmed's sister said tearfully. "She has torn our family apart and brought shame upon us all. We cannot forgive her for what she has done to us." Despite Ahmed's attempts to explain his reasons for marrying Amina, his family remained resolute in their decision. They refused to acknowledge Amina as their daughter-in-law and made it clear that they would have no contact with her in the future. Ahmed told his family that he is an adult and can make any decisions he wanted. And so Amina and Ahmed continued to live their lives, basking in the glory of her newfound status while concealing the dark secret of how she had attained it. But deep down, guilt gnawed at her conscience, the heinous crime she had committed in the name of jealousy. And so, the once loving mother who had sacrificed everything for her children descended into darkness, consumed by the poisonous tendrils of envy and greed. Her heart grew cold and hardened with each passing day, until she was nothing more than a shell of the woman she once was. But even as Amina reveled in her ill-gotten gains, a shadow loomed over her newfound happiness. For in the depths of her soul, she knew that no amount of wealth or power could ever erase the guilt of what she had done. And as she looked upon the face of her daughter's husband, she saw not love or affection, but the haunting spectre of betrayal staring back at her. As days turned into months, Amina struggled to maintain the facade of happiness that she had crafted for herself. Despite the lavish lifestyle and newfound status she enjoyed as the wife of her daughter's husband, the weight of her guilt grew heavier with each passing moment. Every time she looked into her daughter's husband's eyes, she saw the ghost of her past staring back at her, accusing her of the unspeakable crime she had committed. And though she tried to bury her guilt beneath layers of deceit and denial, it continued to gnaw at her conscience, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked within her soul. But Amina was determined to cling to her newfound life at any cost. She devoted herself to her husband's every whim, serving him tirelessly and showering him with affection in an attempt to quell the nagging voice of guilt that plagued her day and night. Meanwhile, in the village, whispers of suspicion began to swirl around Amina, fueled by the mysterious disappearance of her daughter Zara. Rumors spread like wildfire, casting doubt upon Amina's innocence and painting her as a villainous figure capable of unspeakable atrocities. Despite the mounting accusations and the weight of her guilt, Amina refused to confess to her crimes. She clung to her lies with a desperate fervor, determined to protect her newfound life at all costs. But deep down, she knew that she could never truly escape the consequences of her actions. As the days stretched into years, Amina's guilt threatened to consume her entirely. She lived in constant fear of discovery, haunted by the spectre of her daughter's memory and the knowledge of the terrible deed she had committed in the name of jealousy. But even as she struggled to bury her guilt beneath layers of deceit and denial, Amina found herself inexorably drawn back to the scene of her crime. In the dead of night, when the world slept soundly, she would steal away to the spot where she had unalived her own daughter, consumed by a morbid fascination with the darkness that lurked within her own heart. And as she stood alone in the darkness, surrounded by the echoes of her past, Amina would weep bitter tears of remorse, longing for the chance to turn back the hands of time and undo the terrible mistake that had cost her everything she held dear. But deep down, she knew that no amount of tears or regret could ever atone for the sins she had committed, and so Amina resigned herself to a life of empty luxury, forever haunted by the memory of the daughter she had lost and the darkness that had consumed her soul. One day when Amina went to the forest where she ambushed and buried her own daughter Zara, she was crying, saying, "I am sorry I kill you, my daughter. Please forgive me. I regretted my actions towards you. Please forgive me, my daughter." Amina's confession to her daughter's ghost weighed heavily on her conscience, but it also set into motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to her downfall. Unknown to Amina, her confession had been overheard by a passerby who happened to be nearby. Deeply troubled by what she had heard, the passerby contacted the authorities and reported Amina's confession to the police. Shocked and horrified by the revelation, the police launched an investigation into Zara's disappearance and Amina's involvement. During the investigation, evidence began to emerge that incriminated Amina in her daughter's unexplained absence. Witnesses came forward with accounts of Amina's strange behavior leading up to Zara's disappearance, and forensic analysis uncovered disturbing clues that pointed to foul play. Confronted with the mounting evidence against her, Amina could no longer deny her involvement in her daughter's disappearance. She confessed to the police, admitting to the heinous crime she had committed out of jealousy and greed. As news of Amina's arrest spread throughout the village, shock and disbelief rippled through the community. How could a mother commit such a terrible act against her own daughter? It was a question that haunted the villagers as they struggled to come to terms with the horrifying truth. The news spread through the town. Ahmed felt a mixture of anger and heartbreak, knowing that his own wife Amina had betrayed her own flesh and blood in such a cruel way. He struggled to come to terms with the fact that someone he loved and respected could be capable of such a heinous act. He was surprised, and Ahmed regretted marring Amina. He said, "How could a mother kill her own daughter because she wanted me all to herself?" Ahmed regret and ask Amina's spirit to forgive him. Ahmed's family was equally devastated by the news. They couldn't understand how Amina could prioritize her own desires over the well-being of her own daughter. They felt a deep sense of betrayal and loss, mourning the loss of the loving mother and grandmother they thought they knew. As for Amina's other 3 children, they were heartbroken and confused by their mother's actions. They couldn't understand why she would do something so terrible to their sister, whom they loved dearly. They felt betrayed and abandoned by the person they had always looked up to and relied on for guidance and support. Together, Ahmed, his family, and Amina's other children grappled with the painful truth of what Amina had done. They struggled to come to terms with the fact that someone they had loved and trusted had committed such a terrible act of betrayal. At the trial, Amina pleaded guilty to the charges against her, expressing deep remorse for her actions and begging for forgiveness from her family and the community. But her words fell on deaf ears as the judge handed down a harsh sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. And so, Amina's fate was sealed as she was led away in handcuffs to begin her life sentence behind bars. It was a sobering reminder of the consequences of jealousy and betrayal, serving as a cautionary tale for all who heard of her tragic downfall.